name is George Dennis this is Nuevotec Productions, and I am here with.
I'm Josue Joseph, the executive producer of La Epoca, the Palladium era.
We're here at Drexel University, and we just finished watching the screening of this film. And let me tell you, I learned so much. I thought I knew things about salsa and mambo and music and Latin music in general. I knew nothing until today. Today was the day that my eyes were open. So let me thank you, first of all, for letting me share this opportunity with everyone. And I guess one of the first questions that I would ask is, what inspired you to do this film?
George, it's a very good question. It's a very common question. And very simply, as the son of a mambo legend, Alfonso El Panameño, who was the bassist of Arsenio Rodriguez, performed with Cachao, recorded with Tito Puente, performed with Celia Cruz, with Pacheco. Growing up and listening to all these rhythms and having my father point his finger in my face and tell me what you're listening to is not salsa, but it's actually a particular rhythm. Growing up like this for years and years and getting onto the dance scene and the music scene and realizing that people, they don't really have a knowledge of it. They just call things salsa without really understanding what that word really means. And that's what inspired me, is being the son of a mambo legend and knowing that Tito Puente died with his legacy undocumented pretty much. Celia Cruz died with her legacy undocumented. So what I did is I contacted all the people in my father's phone book, all these legends that were part of Fania Records and before Fania Records, and I interviewed them, and 6 people have died. Since producing this movie, 6 people have died within the last year or so. So I walk away very, very humbly proud of being able to document their legacies before they went.
I have to say, you had some of the greatest of all time in music, and that collection of artists I have never seen before on any kind of film anywhere. And with them being, a lot of them being currently involved, except for the ones that just recently passed, and their schedule still playing, still dancing, I know it had to take a long time to compile all of those artists together to get all the footage that you received. So when did you actually get started with this idea?
The idea, very good question. The idea was planted in me in the year 2000 with the death of Tito Puente. And I realized at that time, as I just said, that he took his legacy with him. What film do you know where Tito Puente has sat in front of the camera and has shown and demonstrated his talents all in one production, in the same production as other people? It's either only just him and the big 3 from the Palladium, like Tito Rodriguez and Machito, but nobody has ever been able to put all of them into one film with no drama. Mm-hmm. And Celia Cruz died 3 years later while I was doing research. She died, if I remember correctly, 4 weeks before we were going to interview her for the movie. Wow. And as soon as she died, I said, that is it. I'm done with the research. I took the research and I started formatting the movie. And I said, I've got to be able to demonstrate this. I've got to be able to show this. I didn't start pre-production until the year 2000. I'm sorry, I didn't start production until the year 2006. But as I started interviewing these legends, all the same questions, I realized that there was a gap between the 70 and 80-year-olds, what they were talking about, and the people who were young, 20s and 30s. And I said, there is a big gap. What is it? I have to bridge it together. Mm-hmm. So then I started asking the younger crowd, what is it that you want to know? And everybody said, we don't know what mambo is. Mm-hmm. And that is a big part of the movie. Before salsa, there was mambo and many, many other rhythms. So that's what inspired me to do it, and that's how it started.
And for myself, that was the key too, being a dancer and an instructor and always explaining to students the difference in styles. From what I knew, actually in watching this film, I found out there was so much more that I needed to know that I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you were able to bring that to me once again, because it gives me actually more information to give to my students. Now, I have to say, there was, without giving too much away, it does talk about the differences between dancing on 1 and on 2, where where it actually originated and why. Being with the big war with dancers having a preference, What are the responses that you've heard from people who have a preference for a particular style, dancing on one and on two?
That's an excellent question. You have very good questions. As you just said, there is definitely a battle going on between the hardcore on one dancers, hardcore on two dancers, and mamberos. A lot of people will put on two and mambo into the same envelope, but they're two different dances. Similar, but different dances. Really, the people who really have the most problem with it are the on-one dancers. They think of it as salsa bashing, and they're so stuck in their ways. And as long as people are having fun dancing, George, I'm all for it. I'm not going to be saying you've got to dance on two to enjoy yourself. No, if you have fun dancing on one, dance on one. But walk away with the knowledge that it is not traditional and it is not the original format. So if people would allow themselves to learn and have an appreciation and value for tradition, if people would walk away with saying, you know what, I want to learn more about my ancestors. I want to learn more about what I'm doing. I want to learn more about how it came to be. And when they actually have that tradition and value it, their dance changes. I'm not saying they go from one to on two or whatever, but they will learn how to evolve, they will learn how to take that knowledge. And it's almost like having a connection with these people. I mean, Cuban Pete was 81 years old when he died. I won't tell you how old I am, but there's quite a few years difference. There's about 50 years difference between us. But he told me one thing that was so important before he died. He told me that in person. I was down in Florida visiting him, and he told me that it was such a pleasure for him to hear me, 50 years younger than him, mentioning names that he forgot that he danced and performed with. And that was such an honor for him to tell me that, as well as to tell me that he is so honored to be able to work with someone who has the same knowledge that he has. And he's a dancer. He's not a musician, he's a dancer.